All right, I have a message. So give me a second here to make an adjustment. It worked. Again, it works. All right. This message is entitled The Kingdom of the Heavens, Part 7. The Golden Calf Worship System. Yahweh, open our eyes that we might see wonders from your word. Now, I must say that this message is condensed from this paper. You can't read it from there, but it's 16 pages. So, to say the least that it's been condensed, it's been condensed. The kingdom of the heavens. These are things we have been talking about, and as far as I can remember, since Margaret and I have been here with Yeshua Sabbath Church, these things have been talked about continuously, and not just by me, but by everybody that's been on that screen, and by Pastor. The kingdom of the heavens will be done Yahweh's way. He won't, now this is for our safety. He won't let us do it any other way. You will not be a part of the kingdom of the heavens if you don't follow Yahweh's way. It's the rules. You cannot do this. You cannot jam God into your box or anybody's box. He will not fit into all of the myriad of little nations, all over the place. He won't fit into somebody's box. He has his own. You get to fit into his. It won't work. And here's something that Yeshua says. He's not in agreement with me. I'm in agreement with him. Understand that. And he says, not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, or Lord, Lord, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Now, I said this once to a fellow, and he says, and I said, well, what is the desire? He says, well, great men of the church have told us what that is. Not so. The book, the Bible, has told us what is. Now, over the past few weeks in our readings, we've been talking about, been reading about, Pastor's been talking about how Yahweh wants his things to be. He's talked a lot about the tabernacle and all of its furnishings and so on. And if you go back and read that, he's really specific. The rings will be made of a certain metal. The posts will be made of a certain wood. This will be made of that, and so on and so forth. He is specific. He told Moshe how to build that, what the priests would wear, and when and how the priests would enter his presence. Now, there's a little secret thing there. When he told Moses, he said, as I showed you on the mountain. Moses got to see the video. He got to see what this thing looked like in the heavens that is before Yahweh. And Yahweh says, I want you to make me one just like that. Yahweh is specific about how he wants us to relate to him. He's specific about how we are to praise and worship and when we are to praise and worship. He is specific about his set-apart days. He doesn't leave any error. He did use this word forever. You know, I'm thinking Leviticus 23, that word forever is in there quite a bit. This is for our own safety. I said that twice. He wants it this way. If you do it this way, all is well. If you don't, in a few weeks we're going to be reading the story about Aharon's sons who brought strange fire before Yahweh. Now, they were trying to worship him, but they did it out of order. What happened to them? They're gone. That's what I'm talking about for our safety. He wants us to be here on the Sabbath, not on Tuesday. Oh, that doesn't mean we can't get together on Tuesday or Sunday, but he wants us to be here on Sabbath. In Shemot, Exodus, chapters 24 through 31, Yahweh gives all of these instructions on how he wants to be worshiped. You can look it up yourself. He has commanded his special appointed times. And the tabernacle is a tent of appointed time. It's called the tent of meeting. It's Ohel Moed. Ohel means tent, Moed means appointed times. And he has commanded that we don't change these things for our convenience, or because some man-made belief system said so. Uh-oh, the church has changed his commands. The church acts like they are above the laws of Yahweh. This is denominational issues. If the church wants to continue in the false notion that they are Gentiles, and they don't know what that means, and therefore they don't have to follow Yahweh's commands, they can make up their own, they have unleashed a whirlwind upon themselves that's not going to be very well taken. They are not a part of the will of Yahweh's kingdom. They will never be a part of it as long as they don't do what he wants. It's not me, it's what he wants. And we try our best every week. This is not what we have. You pick commandments. Now, I couldn't find the little picture thing I have of the cut and paste Bible. I'll have to look for that again. That's not what it is. You can't say, well, I don't want to do that commandment. Now, I'm going to say this. There are some commandments that are related to the temple, to the priesthood, and so on, that we cannot do. That's not our fault. The temple's not there, and the priesthood isn't. But we can do all the rest of the stuff, and we can't use the excuse, well, the temple's not here. It's just not going to work. All right, the golden calf worship system in the church, or replacing Yahweh's commanded worship system with man's worship system. Now, it's going to sound like I'm doing a lot of church bashing here. I'm not. I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm not making this up. Yahweh doesn't change. Is this true? Twice it says so. In James 1, that's New Testament, James 1:17, New Testament, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning. It's a good thing that he doesn't change, because his promises we can lean on because they are always there. And then in Malachi 3:6, for I am Yahweh, I shall not change. This is good. Okay, you say God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Well, if he said don't eat pork yesterday, did he change his mind today? No. If he said the Sabbath is the seventh day, did he change his mind today? No. If he said the other feast days are for my people, did he change his mind? No. And we've been led astray, okay? All right, the first golden calf episode, there are three of them. The first one produced a worship system, and you're going to find that, and the pastor's going to talk about it in Exodus 32, 1 through 9, it talks about Israel, that's the 12 tribes at the base of Mount Sinai, making a golden calf to replace Yahweh. Moshe stayed up on a mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. All right? He was up there. They feared Yahweh. They did this. They did fear Yahweh. And they had promised to obey him. It says so in Exodus 24. But rather than wait for the teacher, Moses, they sought to devise another worship system to really worship Yahweh. They weren't saying, oh, we're going to go back to Mitzrayim, to Egypt. No, they didn't say that. But the only thing they knew was what they saw in Egypt. That's why they made a golden calf. The other thing about the 40 days is if somebody was lost in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, he was assumed to be dead. Because it's pretty tough to last 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. I mean, I'm told that. I guess that's the truth. All right, that's all I want to say about it. The second golden calf worship system, this is one to pay attention to. And this is going to take a little bit of time in explaining. I don't have the time to detail it out. You need to, now I apologize for not being here Wednesday to do the beginning part of Who is Israel. I'm sorry. I make no excuse. The second golden calf worship system. This guy, King, I have trouble with, Jeroboam, or Yeroboam of Israel, that's the 10 northern tribes, sets up a golden calf worship system. Now, this guy and his brother took over after Solomon. Under Solomon, all 12 tribes were united. Then these two guys took over. You can read it, and we'll talk about it on the Wednesday classes. Jeroboam was the northern guy. Now, he decides to use the golden calf system. Part of his reasoning is that he doesn't want the Ephraimites under him to go up to Jerusalem, although up was really south, as commanded by Yahweh. He didn't want them to get associated with that other group. You might pick up some nasty habits that I don't want. He was concerned, and this is from 1 Kings 12:27, if the people go up to do slaughterings in the house of Yahweh in Jerusalem, then the heart of this people shall turn back to their master and the other sovereign of Yehudah, and they shall slay me and go back to him. Wuss. Come on. But anyhow, this is what he did. He took counsel and he made 2 calves of gold. And he said to the people, it's too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Oh, that's such an arduous trip. They didn't have any interstates at the time. See your mighty ones, your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one up in Bethel and the other he put in Dan. The reason is convenience. We don't want you to have to do so much trouble, so one of them's going to be there and one of them's going to be over here. It's almost a repeat of the incident in Exodus chapter 32. But he created a false worship system. And they had no excuse, because they've already had Torah read to them a whole lot. This king Jeroboam, I'm having trouble with that today, was trying to accommodate the people by setting up these 2 golden calves and putting them in this convenient location. He also changed the priesthood. He allowed somebody other than Levite to be the priest. And I'm certain there was a little bit of money that was exchanged and who could be what in this thing. What he did, he didn't want to follow Yahweh's days anymore because he made some changes with tabernacles. He didn't want to follow Yahweh's place. And he didn't want to follow Yahweh's rules of the priesthood. Not a nice guy. He created his own worship system. This is the one we are currently in, the third golden calf worship system. And this is going to take some serious explaining. I am not church bashing. I'm going to state truth. I am not Catholic bashing. I'm going to state truth. The third golden calf system. Now, it comes from this guy, Marcion. He was one of the early Christianity types, so-called church father people. Now, he was a heretic by any stretch of the imagination. He had this idea that the God of the Old Testament was some mean, nasty guy that sat on his throne, and if you made a boo-boo, he'd whack you upside the head with his stick, and that was it. But Jesus is all meek and nice and all about love and everything else, and I am not exaggerating what he said. He rewrote the New Testament, making this Jesus person much nicer, and he had totally ignored the Old Testament, which is kind of weird, but he was around when the writings were floating around. His theology, let's see, make sure now he was rejected as a heretic, but his teachings and his theology is replacement theology and dispensationalism of present-day Christianity. He is the ghost of Marcion. Look that up. He may also be called the curse of Marcion. I think you'll find the ghost of Marcion before you'll find the curse. The creation of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, arguably, the beginning of the Roman Catholic Church was at the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, current era. AD, all right? The council, the letter, there is a letter, oh, I'll get to that, never mind. There's a problem here. Many of the so-called church fathers didn't have any Torah or Tanakh, Old Testament, understanding at all. They heard about the Messiah Yeshua, the true Messiah Yeshua, and some of them were totally convinced and believed on this man, believed that the Old Testament said this man is Messiah, even though they didn't understand all of the details about it. Some of these guys were martyred because of their beliefs. So I'm not saying the church fathers were all a bunch of bad people. It's not true. And most of them that had these really weird ideas by biblical standard just didn't know the Bible. And I'm going to say today, a lot of pastors really don't know the Bible. They know the theology they were taught in the cemeteries. And I really mean that word. They attended these things and they were taught about the Bible, about Yeshua or Jesus, but they were taught the theology of whatever their denomination was. And we know this. There was a woman who was staying with a friend of ours, and I was trying to explain some stuff to her. She says, I know, but that's not going to be on the exam. I have to follow what they're teaching. Okay. Now, Christianity became the official religion of Rome in about 351 CE, and that was just a political decision from Constantine. There is a letter which you can find online, and I think it's called Constantine's, hang on, don't go anywhere. Constantine's letter to the church. What's that? The Constantine Creed? See, people are trying to talk to me, and I can't hear, and I have no idea what they're saying. Okay, a letter from Emperor Constantine to all of the churches concerning the decision of the Council of Nicaea in 325. The letter from the Emperor Constantine to the churches. I'm not sure where you would find it. It's in many, many, many places. I'm not exactly sure of the 100% accuracy of it because it's delivered to us in English. And there may be some translational issues, but it pretty closely tells you what this guy thought. The Council of Nicaea created the name Jesus Christ and objected to the name Yeshua HaMashiach, which is Yeshua the Messiah. Paul talks about him, or Rav Shaul talks about him, as Mashiach Yeshua, which is Messiah Yeshua, or Christ Jesus if you're reading King James. The Council of Nicaea created this thing called Christianity. Catholic Church, Christianity. Huh? I don't know. Okay. The creation of the Roman Catholic Church, it is here where the Sabbath was changed to Sunday. If you find this letter, read it, it explains it. Listen up on a couple of Wednesdays from now and I'll discuss it. But right now, that's what happened. The pagan feast days were accepted into the Christian religion, the Christian belief system, into the Roman Catholic belief system. They were accepted Christmas, Easter, Sunday, a bunch of other ones, and then they sort of slid into their saint worship and all that stuff started appearing in there. And that was, with that, they rejected Yahweh's set-apart days. They didn't even rename any of them. They just flat out rejected them. Now, this is from... This is an actual quote from a real document that exists online, and there are a couple places you can go. I know there's a video where there is a priest who says, we changed the Sabbath to the Lord's Day on Sunday. We did it. And we don't have to explain it to you. And they don't. And it just right straight from the horse's mouth. If you try to find the change from the seventh-day Sabbath to the first day Lord's Day, or Sunday, you won't see it. It does not exist. And yes, Pastor, who's listening up there on the YouTube, you may find one or two kind of references. They're not. Yahweh was specific. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh, your Elohim. I want to see, now that Jesus rose on Sunday, after being buried on Friday, the Sabbath is changed to Sunday. I want to see that text, because I see it the other way around. It's not there. By believing that God created the great system of worship, because Christianity, this is what Christians believe in, it's come from the Roman Catholic Church, you are acknowledging and following Constantine. And you are still under bondage. Come out of her, my people. And you can say, well, I'm a Protestant. I'm Baptist. Presbyterian. I'm not a Catholic. What does Protestant mean? Protest. You are a protesting Catholic or Catholic light. A golden calf worship system involves substituting Torah-commanded, set-apart places and set-apart days. Yahweh said, when you enter the land, this is the mountain that you will put my temple on. Not this place. The Catholic Church, the RCC, the Roman Catholic Church, the gigantic thing, said, this is exactly where I am going, this is where God wants us to be. We don't care about that place in Israel. Besides, we don't do any of that Jewish stuff anyway. You can't do that. That's not what Yahweh said. Here's a bad thing, though. The golden calf worship system is Baal worship. It's worshiping idols. And I don't want to hear anything about, well, they bow down to statues and we don't. That's not what I'm talking about. In 2 Kings, they left all the commands of Yahweh, their Elohim, and made for themselves molded images, 2 calves, and they made an Asherah, which is a pole. You want to see what an Asherah looks like? Did I do this right? You see that thing in the middle? That pointy-uppy thing? That's an Asherah. They made an Asherah and bowed themselves to all of the hosts of heaven and served Baal. An Asherah is also this Phoenician goddess whose name is Asherah or Ashtarti or some kind of wording like that. In English, it's Easter. It's the spring goddess and the goddess of fertility. Baal worship is not just bending the knee to a graven calf, it's also substituting Yahweh's commandments for the commandments of men. I may run a few minutes over. Baal worship includes not just the idols, but also changing the places and the days commanded by Yahweh. Okay, when you get a chance, you go home. I got a reading assignment for you. I want you to go to Isaiah 66, and I want you to go to verse 17. Let me find it here. Now, one of the things that the people that worshiping the Baals is right there in that verse 17. Those who set themselves apart and cleanse themselves at the gardens, after one in the midst, eating flesh of pigs, and the abomination, that's the snake, and the mouse are snatched away together, declares Yahweh. There is, I don't want to take up the time on it, but the way this is written in the Hebrew is so revealing of the Roman Catholic Church. It is a female goddess that leads the men, the males, into the garden. You can make that any way you want to. I don't want to put it on the air. But one of their ways of worshiping is by eating the flesh of pigs. Please remember that. Okay, all right, let's move on. The characteristics of Baal worship are not following Torah. Lawlessness is the characteristic of Baal worship. And you want to know why this nation is going to be suffering so much? One of the Baal's other names, I'm not going to mention it. I don't want to. It starts with, oh, I just forgot. They brought babies to him at the spring fertility feast, and they were burned. And his name starts with an M. I don't want to mention the name on the air because it's sickening. Another name for Baal. Celebrating Ashtarte, Easter. So that's where those things are coming from. For fertility, you burn your own babies for fertility? Okay, not following the Torah or lawlessness of both the individual, the person, and the group. If the group teaches don't do that stuff, but the book, the written word is saying do that stuff, follow the word, the written word, please. A golden calf worship system is replacement theology. This is a cornerstone of Christianity. I am horribly sorry that I believed in this completely years and years and years ago. It is a thing that I must face God for because I thought it was right. But I couldn't find anything that in the scriptures that justified or authorized it. And a close second is dispensational theology, and I'm not going to go into either one of those. But those two concepts are taught to our Christian pastors that attend cemeteries, Christian cemeteries. We are replacing Israel. We're Israel, and they're not. We don't have to do all of that stuff because Paul, who changed his name to Paul so that he could, anyway, and so on and so on. But these I call New Testament only Christianity. The pastors, assistant pastors, and others within the church will use those two concepts for all of their teachings and writings. And I really mean all, A-L-L, every one of them. Christian books, Sunday school classes, Bible studies, preaching, teaching, and everything else is tainted by those two concepts. Our children sitting in a Sunday school class will be taught this stuff. We don't have to do that anymore. Jesus changed the Sabbath day to Sunday when he rose from the dead on Sunday is exactly a quote from a Sunday school book for children, little kids. Now, I didn't hear what Tracy said way back there. Feast of First Fruits definitely says this. The golden calf worship system is changed our weekly Sabbath and changed the appointed days of Yahweh. They had no authority to do so. They just made this up. Now, I've done some serious research on this. And according to all of the, maybe most is more accurate, Christian theological material that I've found, I'm convinced that the church believes they are Gentile, not Israel. Israel in their case meaning the Jews. We're not the Jews, we're the Gentiles, and we don't have to do that. They're not subject to the Jewish law, they're not subject to all of that Old Testament stuff, and so on, etc., and blah, blah, blah. They don't have to follow Yahweh's Torah, and they're not a part of the whole house of Israel. And they can never be a part until they make a major change. The New Testament only church is Gentile. I'm really running late. I'm sorry, Pastor. Yahweh didn't make a covenant with the Gentiles, the nations. He made a covenant only with Israel. Understanding who Israel might be the most important thing in your life. You might find out you're supposed to be Israel. Look what Ruth did. All she did is make a statement, and she went from Gentile to Israel. She didn't do any complicated things. She just made this statement, and she joined Israel. Matter of fact, she's in the lineage of our Messiah. Okay, just for a scripture study, go look in the Old Testament for Gentile. And then you want to be one of those. In Revelation 21:12, it talks about the city that comes down. It has 12 gates. There is no Gentile gate. Shalom. Sorry for running too much over here.